Get.buzz. Arguing for the end of adult marijuana prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It is even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more in this edition of Drug War Data Mining. Welcome back, everyone. 23 after the hour, and today in the Drug War Data Mine, I'm recalling the late Tennessee Ernie Ford, who had a hit song back in the day with 16 tons. You remember the line? You load 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt, right? You remember that one? Well, folks, Colorado has outdone Tennessee Ernie Ford and lifted 17 tons of retail marijuana consumption last year. 17 tons, people. 17 tons of recreational buds during the first year of the state's retail marijuana market. But medical pot has still outstripped that almost by a factor of 3. Medical marijuana sold 50 tons in the past year. Amazing. 50 tons, folks. That's a total of 67 tons of marijuana that was bought and sold, grown and harvested, packaged and delivered to legal consumers. That's 67 tons of marijuana that was not sold on the criminal underground market. 67 tons. So when you hear these DEA people and the new Colorado Attorney General talking about, well, it hasn't eliminated the black market, but it's taken 67 tons away from the black market. That's a good seizure even by DEA numbers, isn't it? And of course, there's tax money that has been raised from that legal marijuana. State tax officials say sales hit nearly $700 million last year. $700 million. Medical marijuana was $386 million of that. Recreational marijuana was $313 million. Almost $700 million. Now, that's nothing in Pentagon budget numbers, but still, that's a nice chunk of change for any state that's out there listening and considering a new source of revenue. The pot-infused products, the edibles, however, were an interesting dichotomy. You know, a lot of people talk about needing the edibles for patients, that patients need these edible products because some of them have compromised immune systems. Some of them can't smoke very readily. And yet, in Colorado, where 3 times as many flowers were sold medically than were sold recreationally, pot-infused edibles outstripped medical sales. There were 2.85 million units sold, and that would be your, probably based off the potency, right? So I don't know if they're saying unit, like does a 10 milligram cookie count the same as a 100 milligram cookie, or does units mean per units of milligrams of THC? I don't know. Wasn't clear in the article I was reading. Still, 2.85 million units of recreational edibles sold versus 1.96 million, nearly 2 million, of medical edibles sold. What I feel this owes a lot to is the lack of a public sort of vapor lounge, a coffee shop, a pub, where newbies and tourists who have a large share of that Colorado market have no place to smoke flowers. So they choose edibles instead. And by choosing edibles that they have very little experience with, sometimes end up making embarrassing headlines for themselves. There are now 322 recreational retail stores licensed, 322 retail stores. That may also include the medical. Licensed, up from about 200 halfway through last year. So added about 122 after 6 months. 322 stores throughout all of Colorado, but there are still many counties and jurisdictions in the state of Colorado that have banned such licensees. So this is 322 when in just the places that are allowing them. And it somewhat comports with what we've got in Washington State, which I believe has 331 total licensed locations in the state. Medical marijuana businesses are cultivating 300,000 marijuana plants a month. And the retail plants started at about 25,000. I'm sorry, the recreational plants started at fewer than 25,000 in January. And now they're up to 217,000 per month in the month of December. So, in the month of December, 500,000 legal marijuana plants being cultivated in the state of Colorado. 500,000 plants, 67 tons of processed flowers, $700 million in tax revenue out of 322 stores. This does not even begin to account for all the jobs that have been created, not just directly in the marijuana market for trimmers and bud tenders and growers and so forth, but all the ancillary jobs created in the soil companies and the people that make the little tools for trimming and the people that make the little picks for dabbing and the people who do packaging and advertising for the marijuana companies. The growth in the state of Colorado has yet to be measured fully. But just from these preliminary numbers out of this report, it's nothing but good news for the other states